The SEC championship is here, everyone. Hello, welcome to Slasher U. I'm your host, Christian Rao, here with my co-host, Steve Feck, and we are going to break down LSU taking on Georgia. Now, I just said that out loud, and I did not say Alabama, Steve. That is the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of the SEC championship, and I didn't say Alabama. We're looking at LSU versus Georgia. Before we even get started, a round of applause to Brian Kelly and getting
Yes.
LSU to the championship game. We talked about at the beginning of the season, we thought Brian Kelly it was going to take him till year two to get that going. Even though he has a 3-loss team, we saw him struggle last week. There was moments where there was talks that they could maybe make the college football playoffs if they won this game. Now, obviously not so much, but they still made it to the SEC championship. They still won their side of the SEC, winning the SEC West. That's a huge accomplishment when you look at the other teams along that side. Brian Kelly's got this team exactly where he wants him.
Yeah, and I can't say that I saw this coming. I mean, I'm
No,
thrilled.
not this early.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that it is because that is an environment and a fan base that I think is greatly underappreciated down there, in Baton Rouge and in LSU. I mean, it's a religion, and it goes back to the Depression and Huey Long, really building up that university and making that football team a very, very prominent. And I want to make sure I calm people down in Alabama. Okay, I'm trained in ministry. It is not the sign of the apocalypse that Alabama's not in the SEC championship game. Sometimes it happens. Okay, it's okay. And now I find it interesting that we've spent more time talking about Alabama and LSU than the number one team in the country in Georgia.
Yeah.
And I think that's because sometimes Georgia looks like the number one team in the country. And then there are other times that I felt that they weren't even the number one team in the state of Georgia. I mean, they've just had that uh, weird kind of a year. But the fact that their running game has been gearing up over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Now, that a healthy Kenny McIntosh plays into that. The offensive line, as far as run blocking schemes, I don't think there's a better offensive line, in support of a rushing game than there is in Georgia. And I think that's pretty obvious. They had some issues early, but that's all been kind of worked out. And the fact that LSU gave up, what was it, 215 yards to Devin Arcane of Texas A&M, and Texas A&M hasn't been able to do anything for most of the season. And he put up a 215 spot on you with 2 touchdowns. That probably doesn't bode well for LSU, in the long run. That's not going to cheapen the season. I mean, and then the fact that they have 4 losses even is not going to cheapen this season. I think if you said beginning of the year LSU would have 4 losses, and you were an LSU fan, you'd be pretty happy. I mean, coming in there, knowing that they had a great recruiting class, they're going to have another great recruiting class coming in. The transfer portal, they're going to have a special train probably from all over the country just coming in into New Orleans, to bring these players in. So the future is bright in LSU, but I don't think the future is in 2022. I like Georgia in this one, and I think that if Georgia passes 19 times, I'll be shocked.
Interesting. Yeah. So I had my concerns about Georgia as well. They weren't my true number one pick for a little bit. Now, I wouldn't say I was as low as you were at some points, but with the Kent State win and the Missouri win, at those moments, I was, there was some skepticism, right? So, but it all went away after they defeated Tennessee. That win with Tennessee reminded me that Stetson Bennett is that dude. Like he's that dude. Like we saw him go for 257 and 2 touchdowns in the air. We saw him with that amazing rush. I mean, that is when you think of the college football season so far, and you had to make a highlight reel with a couple clips. That rush of Stetson Bennett going to the pylon is on that highlight reel.
Great point.
Has to be. Stetson Bennett is a game changer. And we saw that. I know at the beginning of the season, there were some worries, like, should he be the quarterback to move? Georgia's really fast to move from starting quarterback to starting quarterback. That's not the case anymore. I also like Georgia in this one. They're a 17.5 point favorite in this one. Again, championship games, I'm not playing spreads. You never know what's going to
No, yeah,
happen. However, I do think Georgia gets this one done. They solidify themselves as a true number one seed in the college football playoffs, and we're going to see them take on maybe a USC team in the college football playoffs next week. As for LSU, a 9-4 season, as you mentioned, is not bad whatsoever. They might squeak into an NY6 bowl for that. I doubt it. However, that is still a really good year for them. And whatever bowl they get, they're going to have a blast. Their fans will show up. They have a fantastic fan base, as you mentioned, one of the most underrated ones in the country. And they get to keep moving forward. And knowing while they wait for their bowl game, the transfer window is opening up, and you're going to be able to meet all these new people that show up and want to play under Brian Kelly, because that kind of winning culture that you see after winning by Alabama by 1 in overtime, things like that. Even that Texas A&M loss, that's going to be forgotten very soon. The Alabama victory is the one that's going to be remembered. With that being said, people are going to want to play under Brian Kelly. That stuff is contagious.
Yes.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think is going to win the SEC championship? And if it is Georgia, are they the true number one in the college football playoffs? Let us know in the comment description below. Hit like and subscribe while you're there. And thank you, as always, for watching SlasherU.